Have you ever wondered why some 70s cars didn't become legends? The 1970s were a time of daring designs, but not every experiment paid off. In this video, we're revisiting 18 ugliest cars of the 1970s that missed the mark and became infamous for all the wrong reasons. Let's take a look. 1970A MC Gremlin. The 1970A MC Gremlin is a prime example of one of the ugliest cars of the 1970s. While it was a stroke of corporate genius, cheap to develop, and a runaway sales success by AMC's modest standards, it looked like two-thirds of a car, which is fitting since it sold for two-thirds the cost of most small cars. Design chief Dick Teague admitted that it could have been even worse, suggesting an even uglier version existed, though considering he approved the Gremlin, his judgment is questionable. Despite its commercial success, the Gremlins took place among the ugliest cars of the decade. 1970 Buick Riviera. The second-generation Buick Riviera started as a breathtakingly beautiful car from 1966 to 1969, with sleek lines and hidden headlights. But then, in the 1970s, it took a sharp turn into the realm of ugly. The grille appeared to be sliding off the front, the skirted rear fenders looked like they were growing over the wheels, and the whole body seemed bloated and awkward. The Riviera, once a rising star in the late 60s, dropped in popularity as this unsightly version hit the showroom floor. It was eventually replaced by the controversial but far more attractive boat-tail Riviera in 1971. 1977 Datsun 200SX. By the late 1970s, Datsun, now Nissan, had built a solid reputation in the US with practical economy cars like the B210 and 510, along with the impressive 240Z sports car. Then came the 1977 Datsun 200SX, a rear-drive sports coupe that seemed to borrow its grille design from an electric shaver. Despite its attempts at sportiness with a 2-liter engine, the 200SX fell short, being neither quick enough to be sporty nor economical enough to be thrifty. It excelled only in rusting away at an alarming rate, leaving few survivors to offend our eyes today. 1970 Porsche 914. The 1970 Porsche 914 is a prime example of 70s automotive design gone wrong. Its mid-engine layout is undermined by an awkwardly large gap between the B-pillar and rear wheel, contributing to its odd proportions. The car's swept-back greenhouse, starkly square bodywork, and plain lines combine to create an unattractive and clumsy appearance. While some might appreciate its unique charm, the 914's design issues make it hard to see as anything but an eyesore from the decade. The 1970 Saab Sonett 3. The 1970 Saab Sonett 3 is a striking example of poor design choices. Aimed at American buyers, it sports an absurdly long front end, exaggerated by the bulky 5-mile-per-hour bumper. The overly stretched front contrasts sharply with its awkwardly short rear, creating a lopsided and unattractive profile. This design blunder, intended to appeal to American tastes, ended up making the Sonett 3 look more like a mismatched afterthought than a cohesive vehicle. 1972 Subaru GL Coupe. The 1972 Subaru GL Coupe is a clear example of a design misstep. Attempting to inject style into Subaru's practical lineup, the designers ended up with a car that looks like it was hastily altered to fit shipping constraints. With its oddly truncated tail and mismatched bumper and taillights, the GL Coupe's awkward proportions and clumsy design make it an unattractive relic of the era. 1975 AMC Pacer. The Pacer. AMC's attempt to create a wide, compact car resulted in one of the most visually perplexing vehicles of its time. While the Pacer's extensive glass area was intended to offer superior visibility, it instead gave the impression of a goldfish bowl on wheels. The rear taillights looked like they were designed with a cake frosting spatula, adding to its awkward aesthetic. By 1978, things only got worse. IMC slapped on a bulging hood and a stand-up grille to accommodate a new optional V8 engine, which only exacerbated the Pacer's already ungainly appearance. With its poorly designed cast-iron engines and excessive weight, the Pacer epitomized automotive excess before it was ever considered cool. 1973 Reliant Robin. Three-wheel cars often struggle with their looks, and the Reliant Robin is a prime example. Not only is it unattractive, but it also exudes a sense of desperation. Its predecessor, the Reliant Regal, at least had a touch of visual dignity, but the Robin falls flat. With its austere, googly-eyed design, it looks like the kind of vehicle you settle for when you can't afford a full-fledged car. Robin's awkward appearance and underwhelming presence make it seem like it's begging for a bit of sympathy. 1974 Bricklin SV1. Malcolm Bricklin's 1974 Bricklin SV1 was an ambitious disaster. Designed as a safety vehicle, its aesthetic was an eyesore with its oversized, gawky bumpers, tiny gun-slit windows, and wheels that looked out of place even on a 1970s Chevy van. The build quality was equally disappointing, with warped body panels and a problematic assembly that often resulted in hidden headlights refusing to emerge. The car leaked as if it were made of cheesecloth, and its heavy gull-wing doors were prone to bending or breaking. The SV1's buggy electrical system added to the misery, often trapping owners inside. 1974 Vanden Plas 1500. The 1974 Vanden Plas 1500 exemplifies how British Leyland mastered the dubious art of badge engineering. Taking the already lackluster Austin Allegro, they dressed it up with a chrome grille, leather seats, deep pile carpet, and fold-down walnut tables in the back. It was as if they believed these upgrades could turn a mediocre car into a luxury experience. The result was a car that seemed designed for those who wanted the look of refinement without the actual quality, and it came with a price tag nearly double that of the Allegro. One has to wonder who would choose this over a Jaguar X J6 1974 Sebring Vanguard city car. The 1974 Sebring Vanguard city car was a true testament to questionable design decisions. It resembled a glorified golf cart with its awkward, wheel-chock-shaped body and a paltry 2.5 horsepower motor, later up to a pitiful 6. The car's 40-mile range and painfully slow acceleration, 25 before in 6.2 seconds, only added to its charm, if one could call it that. The late 70s saw a brief revival by commuter vehicles, which slapped on absurd bumper extensions, further emphasizing its lack of style and safety. The city car was a clunky, embarrassing eyesore that seemed designed to make its drivers wince every time they got behind the wheel. 1974 Ford Mustang II Ghia. The 1974 Ford Mustang II Ghia stands as a prime example of the ugliest cars. While the Mustang II's downsized design might have been a polarizing choice, it was the Ghia trim that truly missed the mark. Ford's attempt to add a touch of luxury with opera windows, a padded vinyl roof, and color-keyed bumpers was a visual disaster. The addition of hubcaps borrowed from the Granada only underscored the lack of originality. The Mustang II Ghia, with its misguided attempts at sophistication, became a glaring misstep in design, looking more like a miscalculated experiment than a refined luxury model. 1973 Leyland P76. This vehicle, produced by British Leyland in Australia, boasts an ungainly wedge shape that not only looks cumbersome, but also seems to have been designed with zero regard for aesthetics. The massive, oddly proportioned trunk, which could theoretically hold a 44-gallon drum, adds to its visual awkwardness. Combined with a build quality that matched its poor design, the P76's unfortunate styling and lack of refinement made it a standout failure of 1970s automotive design. 1975 British Leyland Princess. The Princess is yet another disaster from across the Atlantic. Initially launched under the Austin, Morris, and Wolseley brands, it eventually became a standalone model, likely because no one wanted to be associated with it. This awkward wedge-shaped car resembled a hatchback but lacked practicality with its tiny boot lid, making the already limited trunk space almost unusable. Its unattractive design and poor reliability were fitting precursors to British Leyland's collapse shortly after the Princess's introduction, leading to the company's nationalization. 1970 Ford Thunderbird. The 1970 Ford Thunderbird took a sharp turn for the worse, transforming from the relatively inoffensive late 60s models into one of the ugliest cars of the 1970s. Ford's decision to slap a giant beak on the front was a design misstep that overshadowed any sense of style. Ford's misguided design choice turned the Thunderbird into an eyesore, making it a standout example of 70s automotive design gone wrong. 1977 Lada Caballero. The 1977 Lada Caballero takes the crown for misguided automotive ambition. Starting with the already lackluster Chevrolet Chevette, a car known for its sluggish performance and noisy ride, Donald E. Steinbach of Port Falls decided to transform it into something truly unfortunate. By slathering on 350 pounds of Bondo and fiberglass, he attempted to give his creation the look of a first-generation Monte Carlo, but only succeeded in making it tragically unattractive. Selling for nearly double the Chevette's price, Steinbach produced around 100 of these monstrosities, including a few El Camino-inspired pickups that somehow looked even more absurd. Named after his wife, the car's misspelling of the Spanish word for gentleman remains a baffling touch. Steinbach's venture ended in financial disaster, serving as a rare instance of automotive justice. 1977 Volvo 262C. The 1977 Volvo 262C is a testament to how misguided inspiration can lead to automotive disaster. When Henry Ford II visited Sweden and impressed Volvo with the Lincoln Continental Mark V, the Swedes decided to create their own luxury coupe, resulting in an ill-fated project. Skipping the clay model phase, Volvo sent a perfectly decent 262 GL coupe to Bertone in Italy, where they lopped 2.6 inches off the roofline, making the car virtually unusable for anyone over 6 feet tall. Despite its flaws, around 6,600 of these poorly executed coupes were produced over 5 years. It seems there were indeed a few short individuals with notably poor taste. 1978 Oldsmobile Cutlass Aerobac. When General Motors decided to downsize its popular midsize cars, it chose to give the Buick Century an Oldsmobile Cutlass, a European flair, specifically a hatchback design. The result? An automotive misstep that was as disastrous as it was predictable. Although technically not hatchbacks, due to their conventional trunk lids, the Aerobac models were received so poorly that consumers largely avoided them. GM's confidence in the design was so misplaced that they didn't even offer a traditional sedan version. The Aerobac quickly floundered, though it survived in the form of a conventional wagon and a somewhat decent coupe. By 1980, GM rushed out a proper sedan model, but inexplicably, the two-door Aerobac lingered until 1981. If you're wondering why GM's styling remained so uninspired throughout the 1980s, this misjudged experiment provides a clear answer. And that's a wrap on the 1970s ugliest cars. Did we miss any? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.